5 or 6 years ago, the Lord impressed upon my heart, and this is gonna make you laugh, sis, and all y'all watching. Your husband is not a mind reader. Oops.
Can we make a shirt of that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. When I tell you I was set free,
Mm.
and it happened because okay, you guys, I'm so embarrassed to say this, ladies. I'm probably gonna cry.
Solidarity. We're all here. We're in it together.
I was keeping this, y'all. Okay, some of y'all are dramatic like me, and some of you are not as dramatic, but I think we can all empathize with each other. Okay, this is like probably we've been married 12 years at this point, 10 to 11. It was about 5 years ago. So I was making a tally of, I was like, man, it's been 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And Imua hasn't said I love you.
Mm.
He hasn't said that I'm pretty. He hasn't like I was just, or he hasn't said it first. Like I was always, I love you, babe. Oh, love you too. Like I was keeping this mental log of, and doesn't he know that I need affirmation? Like I need.
Doesn't he know? Oh my
Doesn't
gosh.
he know? Doesn't he know me after all these years? Like he should know. And I was getting all worked up. And there've been other situations, even with other things, where I'm like, hello, we made eye contact. You saw me. Okay. Holy Spirit, thank you, Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit said, your husband is not a mind reader. And when the Lord whispered that to me, I was set free of that expectation of Imua and the disappointment. I'm no longer disappointed. I know my husband loves me. I was able to then talk to him and say, this is kind of funny, but I've been keeping a track. You haven't told me that you love me. And I know you love me, but I need to hear it. And we laughed about it. And now he makes sure that he tells me I do want to hear it.
Yeah.
But there have been other situations too where I've assumed that he knows, or even like situations with family dynamic with other people in our family, and even friendships, and we're in these hard conversations and wrestling through struggles, and I'm assuming that he knows what I'm thinking, and then when he doesn't know what I'm thinking, I get livid and I get mad, and but I've released that off of him. In fact, I even told him, I said, I release you from having to figure out my mind. I'm actually going to be clear, and I'm going to tell you when I'm angry. I'm not going to say that when I shut the door, like he could make me upset, and me shutting the door and isolating myself, I'm thinking like, okay, he must know that was irritating. He knows.
Yes.
Obvious. No, I mean, those are kind of funny, but
it's so real.
Yeah, I'm free. Like when I say that I'm free, there is something in my heart and soul that unlocked, and it brought Imua and I closer, and but then it's also helped him to tune in and be a better listener, because I think he was able to actually realize, like, he's thankful that I'm not putting that pressure on him anymore. And
and there's a freedom in him too now to grow in a level of understanding of your needs, and also be open to the communication, the different level of communication. And it takes courage to say, like, my needs are not being met, and that's huge. I'm so thankful you shared that, because that is a real if you haven't experienced that in your marriage yet, just wait, because there's going to be a time when your husband is like, I can't read your mind. And if I had a penny for every time I heard those words, I would be so rich. Like, and for some reason, it takes me a long time to realize that. Like, I can hear it over and over again, but I don't get it. I still expect him to know that this means that, but I didn't say this. I said this, but I meant that. And you should know that already.
Oh my, yes.
Don't you know what I'm saying? And he's like, no, I don't know what you're saying. You didn't say that.
Yeah. Yes.
So much solidarity, so
Mm,
much solidarity, and, just being able to say that it's a struggle, first of all, for us as wives, and then knowing that we're not alone is the beginning of being able to, like, have a conversation and say, "Hey, I need this," and, you know, and it's also there's seasons when, to be honest, we have to keep track of things, because there's so much gray area, and if we're not, communicating, then what we think is happening or not happening,
mhm.
they might think is totally fine.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's not fair to him when then I explode and I yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I love that honesty, and then the reminder and the solidarity.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so great. You guys have been through so many seasons of your marriage. Obviously, with a 14-year-old having children, you've served and performed alongside your husband all throughout. In the last few years, you've had some real heartbreaking losses,
Yeah.
like one after the other. And I would I was hoping you could share with the wives, what is something that, it might seem small, but actually it makes a big difference in strengthening your heart as a wife as you journey through season after season, which changes. All the seasons change everything. But is there something that makes a big difference that you've held on to?
Oh my goodness. What a beautiful question. Yes. You know, yeah, there were multiple deaths in
Mm,
my family, in 2016. My dad and then 2 of my brothers, and there's a lot of details with that and all of that, but, um, in that space, now looking back, I grief is such a strange, interesting, powerful, beautiful, awkward, painful,
mm,
and when that happened, especially with I could kind of wrap around with my dad and, you know, but when my first brother passed, I immediately went to his wife, my sister-in-law, and
mm,
I was with her for months, and we were both just it was such a whirlwind that I I was not able to be fully present as a wife or a mother. Um, my husband really held it for,
mm,
I wanna say at least 3 months in that during that time, and thankfully, he didn't begrudge it, he really let me he gave me the space to grieve, and it was I'm sure it was really hard on him too. The one thing that I didn't acknowledge was that he was grieving too. You know,
mm,
my dad, my brothers, but those were his brother-in-law, his father-in-law, and I was so consumed with my grief that I overlooked his.
mm.
But there was grace and forgiveness in that, and he didn't even it was an interesting conversation that we had, but the thing that I treasure and I'm that that held me, especially in that space, uh, was the permission to just go, like, my husband
Mm.
literally just for him to have to navigate dropping the kids off at school and dinners and while he's running a studio, and I mean,
Yeah,
I literally, like, detached. I couldn't even function, like, some people are so much stronger, but also, like, embracing where everybody's at. Everybody deals
yeah,
with things differently, and I think I know, not that I think, I know that I need to let that go and not compare
yeah.
my grief or my process, like, as if I failed because I
Mm,
could not be present. I'm thankful that my husband extended that grace to me, and he would always say things like, you know, God is moving, God is working, let him just be with you. He was just it wasn't like a lot of talking, it was just the way that he let me go in that
yeah.
space, and we actually ended up going to a grief retreat,
Mm,
and 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 it ended up being a more of a marital
Yeah.
well. It was a really I highly recommend, wow, and it doesn't have to necessarily be loss or that any kind, just to get with your spouse and to be able to, process the hard things
Yeah.
with a professional and with other people and with faith was key,
Yeah.
powerful. Yeah.
Getting outside of what's happening right in your midst and being able to communicate about it with somebody else who is trained, who, has been there, who understands the gravity, the fullness, and
Absolutely.
can speak life into that. Yeah. That's so honest and so raw, and thank you so much for sharing.